Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Houston. Good morning,
Good morning.
America. I have the famous, the well-renowned Daniel Box with me this morning.
Thank you, Morris, for inviting me to be on your podcast.
It is always a pleasure, sir, to sit down, talk to you, especially talk union business with you.
That's straight, man. I love the union.
So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it, America. We're going to get into it, Houston.
That's right.
What we want to do is that we want to center this conversation around union rights,
Yep.
union responsibility,
Yep.
and we want to make sure what's crystal clear when you leave this is that we have equipped you to go off and do better in the union's pursuit of greatness.
That's right.
This is all this is about. This is a teaching moment to make sure that we are doing the best things we can do for the members and for the city of Houston. This is all this is about.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Box, I'm going to call you Mr. Box
Absolutely.
since you're on the show.
Not a problem.
I'm going to say, Mr. Box, I want to start by saying, let's talk about members' rights. Let's just get right into it, right?
Okay.
So tell me, when you were crafting this Constitution and bylaws, because you were actually one of the founders of creating this document. Is that right?
Yes and no. I was part of a group of 88 people
Beautiful.
that was brought in. They were the Committee of the Future is what it was called.
Okay.
And basically what they did was they got together and they created our Constitution and bylaws that the membership was going to go by.
Okay.
And so they met for months, not weeks, not days, months,
Right.
on crafting this.
Right.
And just like the Constitution of the United States of America, which they met for months and months crafting it,
Right.
there was a lot of give and takes.
It has to be, right?
And there was a lot of compromise to create this. But the biggest thing that the majority of all the members that were there as the Committee of the Future wanted is they wanted to make sure that they had a democratic
Yes.
government for their union.
That makes sense.
Because what they didn't want was to give the union all the power over them and then they lose say.
So tell me, I like how you said that, right?
Yes.
So the board controls what, and then tell me, what does the members actually control?
So what's supposed to happen is this. This is what's supposed to happen. You have the E-board or the executive board in your Constitution. And what's supposed to happen is they're made of representatives that are elected from the various districts. And there's districts like Public Works and Engineering. There's the districts for Parks Department,
That's right.
Health Department, different districts. And you wanted that because you wanted different, diverse ideas of what's going on, because the situation in Public Works and Engineering may be totally different than what's going on over in the Health Department.
That's right.
And so you wanted people to bring their stories into compromise and fight for the same things.
Right.
Because, once again, like I said, there might be an issue that Public Works is running into that Health Department is not. And if you have just one district taken over, that pushes all the other districts out, and that's
The balance is not there.
The balance is not there, and that's not what the membership wanted.
Right.
And so what's supposed to happen is the membership brings it to the executive board,
Mhm.
and then the executive board is supposed to make it happen.
Right. Distribute.
It basically, but here's the deal: not just distribute, but actually take it from the membership and actually enact it.
That's right.
That's what their job is to do. Now,
Okay. So truly, the head is what the next thing we want to talk about, right? So the supreme body is the membership.
is the membership.
The next body would be the executive
The
board.
board.
The next body after that would be the staff of the union, right? Is that how we see it?
It could be committees.
Okay,
It could
true.
be committees.
True. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the staff works specifically for the executive director.
Okay.
But the executive director is supposed to work directly for the executive board.
Right.
Not the other way around. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is the membership decides to come to executive board and say, hey, we want this issue taken up. We want this issue acted upon. The executive board is supposed to take that, decide what type of organizing committee they're going to do or what type of action they're going to do. They give it to the executive director and say implement it.
Right.
And that's what's supposed to happen.
Right.
That's extremely important. Now, there might be some long-term stuff, and here's a good example: is an organizing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, an organizing plan is pretty involved.
Right. And everybody, right?
And everybody, and it's very involved, and it's one of the hardest things for a union to do.
I can agree.
Is to create an organizing plan. What you don't do is you leave it to the executive director to come up with that plan. That is not what your constitutions and bylaws, and that is not what the membership wanted or ever thought was going to happen when they created this constitution.
Right.
It's supposed to be driven by the membership, not the other way around. Not
Right.
driven by the union.
And I'm glad you said that, because on page 5 of the Constitution and bylaws, and I'm reading them straight out of their own Constitution and bylaws, right? So it says page 5. It got a little note over here, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
It says the membership is the supreme authority of hope.
That's correct.
So no one has more authority than the membership.
That's correct.
Tell me, what does that mean to you, Box? When you guys, these 88 people that got together, what was the tell me what breathed life into that statement? Why was that statement so important that you had to put it over here on the side?
Well, there was a previous union that was here in Houston that did not have a contract, but did represent city workers.
Right.
But they were extremely weak, and they were driven from the executive director's perspective and not from the membership's perspective, and left a bad taste in city workers' mouths, and they did not want that.
Right.
The other thing is they didn't want the international unions, which we are affiliated with, to come down, take over, and force their agenda on local politics, which is you. You are a city worker. You are in politics, whether you want to or not.
Right. Involuntary or involuntary, you
exactly.
still belong to the political pool of the sphere of politics, right?
Exactly. Here's the deal. If you're a city worker, you need to realize that you are in the political arena. You are not sitting in the stands, and you're not outside the arena.
That's right.
You are in the arena.
That's right.
And so when they make policies, when the mayor or city council makes policies that affect the citizens of Houston, you are one of the people that are going to be part of making that policy work or not work. So you're part of the simple as that. You're part of the politics. Simple as that, whether you want to be or not.
Right. And the whole democracy part sits here, lies here, stays in this document till this day, right?
Correct.
So when people are not doing something right, when leadership is failing, we would turn to page 19 of the Constitution and bylaw.
Yep.
That talks about chargeable offenses for
Correct.
people that are getting out of line or not condoning the democracy of this union, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk, for example, the two key things that your executive board is supposed to be taking care of
Right.
on a daily basis. Two things. One is organizing, and two, they're supposed to be the stewards of your finances. Okay, so here's the deal. That is your money coming out of the dues they deduct from you every payday to go and pay for this organization, pay for the executive director,
Right.
pay for those staff people to implement the things that you as a member want.
Right.
Now,
Bob, hold on. Before you go
Yeah.
any further,
Yeah.
I want you to say it for the people in the back, because I think the people in the back didn't hear you.
Yeah.
What did you say about the money and what they're supposed to be doing with it now?
so they're supposed to be the stewards of the money, meaning they're supposed to keep an eye and see what's going on with it. And there is all kinds of stuff that they're supposed to comply with. There is what's locally that has to be complied with. There is what the international requires to be complied with. There's what state law requires to be applied with. There's federal law that's supposed to be applied with.
Right.
So if you got people that are not taking care of your money, either one, not doing something improperly with it.
Mhm.
2, somebody not being fiscally responsible with your money.
Right.
Or 2, people covering up and not telling the membership about the financial problems. These are all things that you have a right to question, you have a right to criticize, and you have a right to file charges.
Right.
And you start with filing them locally first.
That's
through
right.
your union.
Right. And when you say locally, you mean inside the in confines of the union,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir. Exactly.
So it says all internal remedies must be exhausted within the local.
Correct.
Okay. So when we have figured out that somehow, some way, someone has done something that we don't appreciate, what powers do we have next after we start filing charges? What comes after filing charges?
Well, first of all,
Identify the charges.
you have to
right?
identify the charges, and you have to be very specific about it. And you also, at the same time, when you file the charges, you have to lay out the entire narrative of why you're filing these charges. So let's just use a hypothetical. All right, let's use a hypothetical.
Go for it.
You have somebody that has stolen money from your union.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So me, I worked for the union, in my pretend job as a office manager, and I have gotten this check, and now I've ran off with the money, right?
Let's say that. Let's
Okay.
say that happens. Right?
Okay.
Okay. Then what's supposed to happen is your executive board is supposed to notify the membership. They're supposed to notify the membership, and they're supposed to create an investigative committee, and their investigative committee is supposed to find out what happened,
Right.
come back to the membership and say, this is what happened, and this is how we're going to keep that from ever happening again.
Right. Some votes need to start happening now.
So
to put new policies
or at
in
least
place.
they have to at least tell the membership. The minimum, the absolute minimum, is explain to the membership what happened. But let's say that doesn't happen.
Right.
And you're a member, and you know something's gone down, and you ask questions, and nobody wants to answer these deals, and you say, wait a second, I think there's money that's been stolen. You have a right to say, wait a second, you're not answering my questions, I want to file charges.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a process, and it's a very specific process that you have to follow. It is in the back of your Constitution and bylaws.
And I just want to flip to it, Box. I want to say filing charges start on page 18, and it really lines out the procedures for a member's responsibility of filing charges against members or officers.
Correct.
And this is so important that they actually took it off the page, put it on the sideline again. Mm-hmm. This is how important this one moment is. So once we start filing charges, once we've laid out those charges, we're solving the problems internally first, right? Now, who has the authority to set this, what's known as a trial body? Who has that authority?
Okay, so it should start at your local.
Okay.
Your local should be, once they've been notified that you're filing charges, they have X period of time to come back and say, you know what, we have looked into this, we're going to accept these charges, and we are going to set a trial date. And this is when the trial date is going to happen.
Right.
And that's what they're supposed to do. But let's say that they choose not to do anything. They choose to do nothing at all. They don't even choose to call you or send you a letter or tell you anything. Nothing. All of a sudden, they ghost you, and you can't get no answers from them. Then you have a right, after that period of time, to file charges with ASME International.
Okay.
Okay? And there are...
Now, that's called the appeal process now. Now you're into the appeal process.
That's not an appeal.
Oh, that's not.
That's a complete and total different trial.
Okay.
Okay? It is a complete and total different trial. We're just talking about that your local chooses to do absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And that's a violation of their Constitution and bylaws. And it's also a violation of ASME's Constitution and bylaws. So not only would you be filing the charges with ASME International about the charges you filed locally, you're going to add another charge internationally for not doing what they're supposed to be doing under the International's charter and Constitution. Then what will happen is you'll get notification from the ASME International about a trial date.
All right.
Okay, and so these are things that are important. The biggest thing that you need to know is it's designed to be hard to file charges.
That's right. And the reason because you have other charges that says you can't file frivolous charges on the officers and the members and all that.
Absolutely. So one of the things that's important to understand is if you didn't have a way to cull out the frivolous charges among the most important charges, instead of your union organizing and working on your behalf, they will constantly just be in trials all the time.
All right.
So
who do I file the charges with? Who do they actually go through?
So
if I decided to file charges.
If you decide to file charges, what you would do is you'd follow the notes that's in the back of Hope's Constitution, and you send it by mail to the Secretary of Hope. Now, one of the things that I always suggest people to do to make sure that they get it is send it return receipt sender.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, because here's what happens. If you don't, they can always say, we never got your letter.
Just never received it.
We just never received it.
Right.
And that is a legal excuse to use in another trial. They can, because you can file with international. International says, well, there's no proof that they ever received a letter.
That's right.
So always send it a return receipt, no matter what.
Okay.
Once they get it, what's supposed to happen is this. The secretary gets the charges. She's supposed to notify the executive.
He or she.
He or she.
Right.
He or she. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They're supposed to notify the executive board, and the executive board has to come together and decide whether they're going to investigate it or whether they're going to set a trial or something. They're supposed to do something. They're supposed to respond to you as the individual.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Now tell me, I kind of want to shift gears into meetings.
Okay.
Meetings, special meetings. What does quorums mean? What's general membership meeting for? Tell me what. I want to start off with general membership meeting first.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest, the most common, and all this other good stuff. So tell me, what is the meaning, or what was the procedure? What was the reason for creating a general membership meeting?
So there's a couple of reasons of why the general membership meeting was created.
Okay.
One is that's the place where members can bring the problems to the e-board and say, hey, we got this problem over in the health department, or we got this problem over in the parks department, and we want some sort of program created to fix this.
That's right.
That's important. Number two, the general membership meeting is also a chance for the executive board to actually do one of their duties. And that duty is, hey, this is what's going on with the finances, ladies and gentlemen. And they're supposed to give you the finances, and they're supposed to allow you to vote yes or no on whether you're going to accept the financial reports.
So, Box, you telling me there's a vote that should be happening in the general membership meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Definitely for finances.
Wow.
Definitely for finances. Because at the end of the day, it's the members' money, not the executive board.
Okay.
The executive board's job is to be good stewards of that money. And they're supposed to explain what's going on with the finances. So if a member has a question about, hey, why are we spending X amount of money on this? That gives the e-board an opportunity to explain it to the satisfaction of the membership. If they do it in such a way that it's open, it's complete, and the membership accepts it, then the membership should have no problem accepting and voting yes.
The expenses. So truly, when it comes to the expenses, should the e-board come to the membership first and talk it out, and then we vote on it, then the money has been distributed out to wherever the e-board wants us to go? Or should it be done after the fact, after the money's already gone?
So that's a tricky question, because here's the deal. You have what's called day-to-day operational expenses,
right,
which are supposed to be done on an annual budget. And an annual budget is supposed to be brought to the membership and
voted on.
Very good.
Okay. We learning something here.
So that annual budget is supposed to be brought to the membership, and it's supposed to say, hey, this is how much it is for the rent. This is how much it is for the electricity. This is how much we're paying our staff. Okay, these are day-to-day expenses. Once that's accepted, that should be going through, and that'll be at every meeting. It's going to be automatically paid for.
That's right.
Now, what doesn't go in there in those annual expenses are special expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And those expenses could be, hey, we need to take this money and go on a educational trip
Right.
to San Francisco for a conference.
Okay.
Okay, or we need to take money and we need to use it to hire a lawyer to fight the city. Or we need to take this money.
Save jobs. We need to save jobs. So we're getting an attorney to save people's jobs.
Save jobs.
Okay.
Or they could be, hey, we need to rent buses to take our people to Austin to lobby workers. These are special expenses that are not part of the annual budget, that are supposed to be, once again, voted by the membership. So, for example, if you got an extra $9,000 expenditure to send your executive board to training stuff in New York or something like that, that's supposed to be brought to the membership before, and it's supposed to be approved by the membership before. Okay? If not, then they're not being transparent. And it's
telling me after the fact.
After the fact, exactly.
Okay.
If you get something and you see a big hole in the budget, and nobody can explain to you what that big hole. Let's just, for example, that at the executive board meeting they give you the rundown on the finances, and then all of a sudden there's this miscellaneous $60,000 financial deal that's not explained.
Right.
They need to explain that clearly to you before you go ahead and just approve it.
Okay. That makes
You have
sense.
a right, because you want to know, what is that $60,000? What was that $60,000
For?
Where did it go? What happened to it?
Right.
That's one of the biggest things that the general membership is for them to come to you, explain the finances, and for you to vote and accept it. By the way, it is in ASME's Constitution, and it's also in ASME's Financial Standards Code that it's supposed to be voted on. The general membership is supposed to be recorded by the secretary, and the reason why she's recording it is she's supposed to be recording that vote.
What?
Saying that you've accepted or rejected
So now
the financial report.
we got records that's being kept by the secretary to make sure that all these expenses are being taken care of.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, we learned something today. Now tell me, I want to get into special meetings.
Okay.
What's the reason for a special meeting?
All right. So a special meeting, or it's in the back of your Constitution.
Page 15, by the way.
Page 15 is designed that if your executive board decides to go rogue and just not follow anything that the membership is doing, you have a right to call a special meeting with the membership to do something.
Now this is not the e-board.
No, this is the membership calling for a special meeting, and it's set out in the Constitution of the requirements for doing it. It's a very hard thing to do.
Very.
It's not impossible.
Right.
It's not impossible.
Tricky.
It's tricky, but let me tell you something. If you're highly motivated, and this is a fight that you want to fight,
Gotta want it.
you got to want it.
Gotta want this.
You can make this happen. And if, for example, if it's to the point where you have no confidence in your president, you could have this meeting, and you could remove the president. You could remove
Just
the
by
executive
vote.
board.
Just by vote. We
In
don't
the-
have to wait
in the
for a special election or nothing like
special
this.
election. Absolutely.
We call a special meeting. We say, hey, this person has fired, laid off, contributed to a buyout of 700 people. And we can say, hey, we don't like this. We didn't vote on this. Let's call a special meeting. Let's take a vote today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Tell me, what's a quorum?
So quorum is a minimum of how many people have to show up for a meeting.
Okay.
And it changes. It changes for example, the executive board meeting has to have X amount of people for a quorum. A general membership meeting has to have X amount of people for a quorum.
Okay.
The same way with the special meeting. It has to have a certain amount of people to create a quorum. Now, that's important.
Right.
These are all things that have to line up and go down like dominoes for it to actually be enacted.
Right.
Now, here's the good news on that, ladies and gentlemen. If you do it 100% right, it's almost impossible to overturn.
Right.
Because you have followed everything that is laid out in this law. This is a set of laws, a governance laws of your organization. And if you follow it to the T, there's almost nothing that ASME International can do, nor any court of law can do.
Because remember, the general membership is
the
what?
supreme authority.
That's what I thought I remembered. Okay.
It's the supreme authority. And in that section where it says you are the supreme authority is the section that refers back to special meetings from the membership. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about elections. How do elections supposed to go? How are they set up? Who's supposed to run them and all that other great stuff?
Well, here's the deal. Elections are supposed to be the absolute pinnacle of democracy for your union.
Right. That's the foundation of it,
It is
right?
supposed to be the gold standard.
Right.
Not the bronze standard, not the lead standard. The gold standard.
Golden.
Okay? But here's the deal. You have to know exactly what your rights are in this type of election.
Right. A lot of dates in this part of it.
Absolutely. So keep in mind that there are, the way the election is set out in your Constitution and bylaws for Hope, but it all refers back to the election manual that ASME has. Okay? And that manual says this is exactly how the elections are going to go, and if it goes one iota difference than this, the election can be overturned.
Easy.
Very much so.
Easy. Because we want to make sure we get this right.
Exactly.
That's the reason for this, right?
Absolutely.
This is to make sure that everything was kosher, make sure everybody was taken care of, no one's rights were dismissed or misled or all this other great stuff.
Absolutely.
So that's why if you follow this to a T, everything goes smoothly, everything goes right. You have free and fair elections.
That's the key part.
Okay.
Free and fair
Right.
elections.
Right.
To where nobody can argue saying it was unfair or it was
Biased.
biased or somebody got in there and
Tampered with it somehow.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the deal. And that's what you want as a member, because this is what creates your leadership.
Okay.
As simple as that. Now, unfortunately, we have a lot of people over the years that have a totally different idea of what free and fair elections are when it comes to Hope.
It seems like we don't remember definitions. That's what it seems like. That's what it seems like. Now, Box, I think I want to talk about maybe two more things.
Okay.
And you can add whatever you want after this. Okay?
Not a problem.
Let's talk about the executive director.
Okay.
What is that person's duties? What is that person's concern? What is that person actually supposed to be doing?
So the executive director of Hope is specifically supposed to be enacting whatever the executive board has told this person to do. For example, once again, the executive board is supposed to be, one, looking at the finances, making sure the finances are taken care of,
Right.
and two, coming up with the organizing plan. The executive board comes up with the organizing plan. Once that organizing plan has been accepted by the executive board, they bring it to the general membership. When the general membership says, yes, this is perfect, this is great, start on it, they vote on it, say, yes, we want this, then the executive board goes back to the executive director and says, tell you and your staff, this is what we want done.
Right. So
Simple
they
as
are to handle the day-to-day operations of achieving the goal that the membership has put forward, that the ED has adopted, and they have passed all the way down to the executive director and his staff, his or her staff, to get everything done.
So once again, membership, executive board, then it goes to the executive director, who's the ED, and they're supposed to enact it with his staff. He's in charge of the staff. Okay. Nobody else is.
Right. So he does the hire, or that person does the hiring, that person does the firing,
exactly.
Everything like that. When it comes to how do we know that our staff are doing a great job? How do we grade them, or is there a grading system that helps us out determine if we have a great staff or we have not so great staff?
So what's supposed to happen is the executive director is supposed to give us a performance evaluation of how our staff is doing. At the same time, the executive board is supposed to give us a performance evaluation of the executive director to the membership.
What?
Yes, so that we know that our money's going. Once again, they're in charge of where our money's being spent.
Right.
We're spending, anywhere from $75,000 to $85,000 a year on an executive director. Are we spending that money wisely?
Right.
Are we getting return for our investment in this executive director?
Right.
Are we not getting return in our investment? Once again, that's supposed to be brought to the membership and saying, hey, he's doing a good job or he's doing a bad job.
Wow.
Question is, when was the last time that was brought to the membership?
Couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you either.
Well, that was a lie. Oh, that was a lot, Bob. Oh, that was a lot.
Did I answer your question?
You did, though. I want to do one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Let me talk about the president.
Okay.
And then I'm going to let you have free reign whatever else you want to talk about. Tell me what you guys, this group of 88, the crazy 88, these people came up with this. So tell me, what did the 88 people decide? What is the president's real job?
So the president's real job at the end of the day is, one, he is supposed to be the figurehead of the union.
Right.
He's supposed to be the mouthpiece of the union. At the same time, he's also supposed to be making sure that the executive board is doing the two things that is in the Constitution that says they're supposed to be doing. One, looking at the finances, and two, coming up with an organizing plan. That's something he is supposed to be specifically, or she is supposed to be specifically doing. Okay, is one. Now, if there has no organizing plan been created, they're in charge of making sure that thing gets created. They're also in charge of making sure that all the Constitution and the bylaws are being abided by.
So as the president, if you didn't read this document, truly, you're having a disservice to the membership. Is
Absolutely.
that how I'm reading? Is that
Absolutely.
how? Okay. I want to make sure I was hearing that right.
Absolutely. So if you're, for example, let's just hypothetically, let's say that the president decided to send a memo out citywide talking about, accepting a
buyout.
early buyout for retirement or
okay.
whatever. First, that's supposed to have been brought through the general membership and explained why, we're going to accept it. Then it's supposed to be brought to the executive board, and then it's supposed to be released to the membership, and then released to the press.
Wow.
In that manner. That way, the members know what's going on and what was behind it.
Because they truly should have been the ones who say, President, we do accept this, or President, we don't.
Absolutely.
And then you go out there and you say what you need to say.
And then what's supposed to happen is, for example, your membership comes in, they have a right to say, okay, explain this to me. How does this work? Why are we doing this?
How does it benefit us?
How does it benefit us? How does it benefit everything in general? How does it benefit our union in general? How does it help
The city.
all the city and the city workers?
Right.
These are questions that are supposed to be brought up first before the executive board just decides they're just going to go off and just make a decision.
Wow.
But here's another thing that's supposed to happen. For example, when your president goes out and starts endorsing politicians and such, all that is supposed to be run through the membership first, and it's supposed to go through committees first.
So you got vetting processes of people that
And
were
then
trying
brought
to back.
to the general membership to an up and down vote, because both our Constitution and bylaws and ASME's Constitution and bylaws says the membership has a right to participate in the processes of their union. And part of that participation has always been that you have a right to vote up or down whether they accept it or reject it. But once again, when you're at those union meetings, what exactly are they allowing you to vote on?
Good question. Good question. Houston, you have been great. I'm going to give Box the floor. It's his moment to shine. Whatever he wants to say, whatever he wants to get off his chest, he can say whatever he wants. Because it was always more with Morris. Anyway, y'all have a great one. Box, go ahead. Go for it.
Appreciate it. Well, so here's the deal. A union is only as good as the democracy that runs that union. And the democracy is created of its members. If you feel that you are having no say or no opinion whatsoever in your union, then your union is failing you. And that is a failure of leadership on several levels. That's a failure of leadership at the top from the president. That is a failure of leadership in your executive board. If you are not getting financial reports to be voted on, if you're not getting audits, the audits information. Now what that is once a year, they're supposed to be getting an audit to say whether or not the funds are being used correctly or if there are problems with the funds being used. That means your money. You're supposed to be told about it, and you're supposed to ask questions about it, and you're supposed to vote to accept or reject these audits. Because at the end of the day, it's your money, not the executive board's money, not AFSCME International's money, not the president's money. It is your money. And if you've never been able to vote on an audit, up or down, to accept or reject an audit, then you have a problem. If your union is not explaining to you about the theft or loss of money that has happened in the past year, and they have not brought it to your attention and have not spoke about it, then they're enacting a cover-up. Once again, they're not doing what the Constitution and bylaw says they're doing. There is a AFSCME financial standards codes that is required for them to tell you what's going on with your money. If that's not happening, ladies and gentlemen, your union is not a democracy. It is now a dictatorship. And they're going to tell you exactly what you can do and what you can't do with your money at the end of the day. If they are not allowing you to vote on whether or not to accept or reject support of politicians, or to accept or reject some of the organizing plans that are going on, they're basically saying, we don't care what you think, we don't care about your opinion, we don't care anything about you as a member. You need to take action. And part of taking action is you have a right to call for special meetings. But you can do other things besides that. You can start petitions. You can also file charges. There are a myriad of things that you as an individual can do. From simple as starting a petition saying, we want changes. That is the least and most invasive thing to do. What do I say? What does that mean? It means that it's a way to start a conversation when nobody else wants to start it. Starting a petition. Saying, this is the reason why we're starting this petition. We feel that we are not being heard. Okay? You can move up from that. You can go up from the petition to actually filing charges. Any member of the union can file charges at any time. All you have to do is say, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I feel like you're in violation of one of these issues of the charges. You spell it out, follow the procedure, and have your day in court and throw out your arguments and say, hey, this is the reason why I'm doing this, because I'm not getting any information. You also have rights to file with the AFSCME International. You have rights as a group of individuals, as memberships, to file a petition with AFSCME International saying you need a regime change, if that's what it comes down to. You have a right to set up a special meeting, but you have to follow all the rules and regulations to create that special meeting for it to have some teeth. I always tell people, start with the least first. Start those petitions. You have a right to petition your executive board members and your president and saying, we want answers at the next general membership meeting. If you've asked questions at the general membership meeting and they said they would get back to you at the next general membership meeting and they have not, you need to file charges, because they're just going to keep playing you off and playing you off. Simple as that. Don't waste your time. Don't play games with them, because that's what they're doing with you. They're playing games with you. File charges. You've given them 30 days. You didn't even have to give them 30 days. You just gave them 30 days out of the kindness of your heart, member, and then they come back and say, hey, I can't get any answers for you, you have to wait another 30 days? No, you do not. You can go ahead and file charges. Go ahead and file charges. You can get other members to file charges. You can file charges as a group. You can file charges as an individual. Okay? You can file charges every day that they don't give you an answer that you've asked for. You can file charges over them not following the financial standards manual from ASPE. You can go online, get it. If not, I'm sure that Brother Morris right here will put it out there for you guys to find. You have a right. Every day that they're in violation is a day that you can file charges. You can do this. But I always tell people, start with the petition first, because here's the deal. They start seeing other members and other names on that petition, plus you're also getting the word out to people. You're letting people know there's a problem. And here's the deal. Our organization is not part of the city. We're outside the city. It is our organization. It is our membership, okay? The same way it works in the city is the same way it works in the union. If they can create silos so that nobody else knows what's going on out there, it stays in-house and it never gets taken care of. You can just blow it out of the water and start a petition and start asking questions. That's the whole purpose. You have a right as a member to ask these questions. Simple as that. And once again, I want to say thank you, Brother Morris, for letting me be on your podcast today. I hope I did something in your service by answering some of these questions, and I hope I answered some questions and inspired some of you people who are members of Houston Organization of Public Employees to take back your union. As always, I will always be available to any member or any employee of the city who wants to know, how do I take my union back? I'll be happy to come talk to you as an individual or talk to you guys as groups. Just let Brother Morris here know what's going on. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you putting me on your podcast.
It was always more with Morris. I thank you, Brother Box. Y'all have a great one. Love y'all, Houston.